Allow me to beg your indulgence for one moment. This is the artist formerly known as Damian Sandow, now known as Aaron Stevens, and you're listening to the Talk and Roll Express with Lewis, Thomas, Oliver, and Cameron. Covering everything from murder mysteries to union stabs and always getting the job done straight from the enclosed pool area. Right, guys. The SmackDown of June 12th, 2003. Initial impressions of this episode. Well, don't all start at once.
Initial impressions, you can definitely feel that there's nothing long-term going on. We're not far away from we're post-WrestleMania sort of thing. The Fed never does good in this season, but what I would say is if Vince in his head thinks that wrestling is nothing more than entertainment, then maybe this year, if anything, encapsulates the best of whatever that is, because there was just so much going on that it was hard not to find it entertaining, regardless of the fact that the wrestling was crappy and I wish we were watching WCW.
I keep showing my hand in the group chat, but yeah, that this was a real show. That it's a case of it's more about the E than the W for Vince, because there was a hell of a lot of E and whatever the fuck they were taking backstage at the time. On top of that,
yeah, there was. I know this was like 18 years ago, but I didn't realize how much certain things had dated.
I mean, I still think it was a pretty hardcore thing to do to kick out a physically disabled man's leg from under him back then. I feel like that was still some monster heel heat, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't even the worst thing on the show.
No, it wasn't. Sable's tits were there.
Right, so the thing starts off with just the most over-exaggerated promo between Mysterio and Hardy. It's like proper Brett Sean tier music they're using in that. They're really high.
Yeah, I think it's the same music.
Amazed that a 2003 SmackDown was starting off with a cruiserweight promo. Like, they really hammer home the cruiserweights, and I was pleasantly surprised with it. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think I'm going to be the lone defender of this thing as it goes on. But yeah, okay.
Not necessarily.
I liked it.
I think it's the concept. Sorry.
No, go on, man. I'll go after you.
The concept of the promo is great, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, when was the last time you saw a mid-tier or lower-tier championship bigged up like that? Like, it was as if he had main evented WrestleMania. It's interesting because it felt like they didn't have any bigger plans for Mysterio at the time. It felt like that this was his ceiling, so we better make it a good one. I don't know. I thought it was cool, but at the same time, like, nah. In fact, I'm just looking for something to moan about. A promo on a week-to-week basis. I would go that now, to be honest. Make a bigger deal out of the more mundane things.
I think it's cool.
Sorry, I'll let you go.
We're gonna have to get used to this again, aren't we?
I was all talking over each other. I think it was one of those that it was quite funny to see a promo of that magnitude opening up pretty much the B show. But yeah, fuck it, just roll with it, man. And the fact that they are putting such investment into the cruiserweight title, putting it at the start of the show, which I always think is, if you put a title match at the start of the show, you want to start off on a good note. But as we get on, I think also as well, they could have done more with the cruiserweight division in this time moving forwards. And I think the cruiserweights, as much as they tried to push them, they also made them the joke characters as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I think I really liked this promo, for the fact that it was quite full of its own self-importance in a good way. It was very grandiose. It took itself very seriously, and it was very dramatic, but in a good way. It wasn't taking the piss.
When it cut to Mysterio's family in the audience and he'd won the Cruiserweight title, it was like, he'd won the lottery. It was like, it's hard to believe that there was a time when the Cruiserweight title was treated with such respect.
I don't think it was. I think that's the problem. I think they're trying.
Yeah.
It's in vain. At the end of the day, it's in vain, because what they just drop like a wet fart in one of the next promos is that the US title's coming back, so there's not going to be enough room to put over the cruiserweights anyway. So it's all kind of in vain, in my opinion. But then I can't complain about too many belts. Like I said, I'm a WCW mark, and they had one for every calendar month. So
Can we talk about Matt Hardy's intro? What the
Oh, love
fuck
it.
was that?
That was
That was just pure 2003, man. It's one of those that
I prefer Matt as a bad guy. To me, he's always suited the more villainous character.
yeah, I don't like him as the goodie.
No.
I don't like him as the wholesome Hardy boy. To be honest, it's not a. He strikes me as an effortlessly nice bloke.
Aye.
But yeah, to be that, yeah, he's got to be a bad guy.
He just plays a villain so much better.
I don't think he knows how to play a good guy. He's just himself, and for the world of professional wrestling, that's just not big enough, is it?
I mean, the broken Matt Hardy character is a babyface, and that's just something completely different in terms of what a wrestling character is like. And he pulled that off really well because it's just absolutely insane. And it was even better. We did interviews on podcasts in character than try to give some context to who the character was, and he's explaining it's a 6,000-year-old deity that lives in the vessel of Matt Hardy. And he's talking to Chris Jericho about this in the podcast, and Jericho's like, yeah. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Beautiful.
Fuck it, you know, when they bring back kayfabe, you know, it's like, fuck the kayfabe crowd. That's amazing.
I'm totally for that. Like, I'm not too clued up on it, but the sounds of it, that sounds pretty righteous. I'm into that.
They have a lake, and it has a lake in his garden where you'll put wrestlers in it, and they'll come out as their former characters.
Cool.
So it threw Shane Helms in it, and he flew out of it, and I mean literally flew out of it like fucking Superman as Hurricane Helms.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's fucking brilliant. That's just incredible.
Unfortunately, sorry.
They did the original kind of movie segment with Jeff Hardy when he was chasing him with a fireworks gun, and he ran into a dilapidated boat. Am I making that up, or was that a real thing?
That happened.
Yeah.
It took cover under the boat, and you had Vanguard 1 attack Jeff Hardy. Then they got a lawnmower that you can't sit on lawnmower, and like fucking cut big massive sigils in Jeff Hardy's garden.
What did we think of the match?
Anyway, yeah, I was about to say this was fantastic.
I know there's 4 of us, and you know I've just tanned a coffee, so I can go all night. But I don't think
I would have enjoyed it more if Matt Hardy cut chunks out of Rey Mysterio's garden. I'm going to be completely honest there.
It was missing a drone.
It was a good match. I don't know if it was a work or not, but obviously Mysterio was injured as well, so there's not a lot you could probably have asked for from him as well.
They play up the groin injury, and is it not? He can't do the 619 because his groin's knackered and that. So it was an interesting.
That's fucking bullshit.
I just wish they went and revisited that. They should have revisited that storyline from when Edge and Matt Hardy feuded because Edge's groin was so sore. You could really add some heat.
You fucking Mark Ollie.
Oh man, they had enough heat going on. Was it one we watched where
body heat?
Matt Hardy was backstage and Edge and Lita just showed up, and it's like the most fucking nails down a chalkboard awkward thing you've ever watched. That feud did not need more heat put onto it, man.
I mean, Matt Hardy. I don't want to kind of divert too much, but Matt Hardy's girlfriend cheats on him and he gets sacked for it. It's amazing.
And it's just a case of, your girlfriend fucks someone you work with, and then your boss is like, great, that's going to make good telly.
Yeah. Hey, and Matt Hardy also agreed to it, and the 2 of them managed to actually work a fucking match.
Because it's money, Thomas.
Yes.
The hand thing means money.
But I liked this match. I thought it was a good opener. It was quite strong. These 2 guys had good chemistry. It felt important as well for the promo and stuff like that. And for, as you were saying there, kind of, it's the B show. This is a very good opener. This is like a marker was laid down, I felt.
Yeah, I can't complain. I'm pretty sure I banged out about cruiserweights have to start the show every time, even if it's a B show for free. So yeah, I'm not. That's the problem. There's not much to say to this. It's the second time they go around the block as well. Like we're watching the. I'm pretty sure this is kind of like the petering off of the feud. So yeah, not much to add to it.
Right. Well, moving on, we have the Piper's Pit segment with Tajiri Eddie Guerrero. I'm so sorry, Piper and Sean O'Hare. Ollie, are you breathing in through your teeth? Yeah, very teeth grinding moment. Obviously, having the Hispanic guest on the show, they bring out all manner of sombreros and tacos and tequila and just all manner of. I said I was going to be the lone defender of this thing earlier on. I'm very quickly regretting that now.
I think you'll find that Taz referred to all of Tajiri's gear as Chinese at one point as well. Like, all of it just felt wrong. And in fact, the worst part, even still, was Sean O'Hare. Like, is that his name?
Yeah.
I don't even give a fuck.
No,
Sean,
I had no idea who that guy was, man.
I absolutely love Roddy Piper. And yeah, we'll look back at some of Roddy Piper's stuff and cringe a little. But a wee tidbit for you. A tidbit, as they call them, usually. He done one of the cameo things for a podcast I used to do not long before he died. So when Roddy Piper died and his life flashed before his eyes, my name was there. And I will never forget that.
why did you not pay him or something?
What an interesting fucking interlude.
But regarding this, like Piper's always money in my opinion, right? He's great, and
His
this is very.
2003 run was very, very confusing.
Oh no! I mean, like, I don't mean in terms of like wrestling wise. I mean just promo wise. The guy can still cut it. This was really, really bizarre. This was really, really weird, and it's very cultural and sensitive. But I still dig Piper in it.
I don't know. I don't think anyone done much of anything in this. You know why this is saved? It's because Sean O'Hare is such a fucking useless mannequin in the corner that at least we're looking at all of them and going, yeah, well, they were there.
I kind of want to say it had potential though.
No. Guy couldn't do anything. There was something like he had a really interesting gimmick that he was like shooting Devil's Advocate. That was quite cool. But then, was that his idea? I don't know.
You could have actually convinced me he wasn't in the segment until you mentioned him. Even now, remembering them in it, you could still convince me he wasn't.
He was. Yeah, there you go. I was going to say he didn't need to be there.
2003 gold and blue tag team belts.
It just seems like they're making up the tag team division as they go along at this point, really.
Yeah, just pick any two wrestlers. Yeah, they'll click.
They just press shuffle on fucking SmackDown, shut your mouth, and just went for it.
Because to be fair, to fast forward, it's relevant. Like, obviously later on in the show, you've got Benoit and Rhino in a tag team together, who, to be fair, I think, were they not just shoved together for Mania? So presumably have been tagging since Mania. So we're meant to feel bad about them breaking up, despite the fact they've only been tagging a few months, kind of thing. Like they don't know what the fuck is going on. The Bashams were the most together team on this fucking card. Yeah,
and it's hard. It's hard to mourn the breakup of a tag team when you're just looking at them and it's like, what the fuck are these two guys doing together?
I know.
What is it Vince has against tag teams? I mean, even here, it's like back in the day, obviously back in the further days, 80s, 90s and stuff, you had actual tag teams with Smoking Guns to a lesser extent, but the Hart Foundation, Demolition, Legion of Doom, the Rockers, fucking Bumblebee guys, how they were called, Killer Bees. You had tag teams, but it seems to have this amazing obsession with just grabbing random wrestlers, as you say, hitting shuffle.
So you're referring to people who came up in the territories as already established tag teams, and he sort of then just repurposed them for his product. The problem in this generation is he killed the territories, so had to manufacture his own tag teams, and he can't do it. That's basically what happened.
I know, but it's so hard to just say to two guys, you're in a tag team, here's a tag team name. And you're not single stars or established single stars and just bringing somebody up. I don't know.
And by the way, we're less than 12 months from Chris Benoit winning the world title. Did that feel like that in this episode?
No.
Can I just throw that out there?
It felt like, again, Vince had bought the entire fucking WCW's library and was just throwing people out. He's killed off all his main competition. Was this pre-TNA as well? Or very?
No, TNA was it wasn't a big thing, but
or was it like the genesis of TNA?
I don't think they had a TV deal at this point.
No. He's got carte blanche, man, and he doesn't know what to do with all these fucking wrestlers. You could get a man off the street, show him all these big blokes, maybe show him some archive footage, and be like, right, do it. And you put a show together, and he's just getting like P from WCW, and you see just like slamming them together, be like, come on.
I know. I mean, there's not much to add to that specific segment. I personally, I forgot that Tajiri and Guerrero were together, and let alone like won belts and straps. I love seeing Tajiri. I wish he was utilized more. Guerrero obviously couldn't be because, yeah. Piper is a really sad thing in this because I'm pretty sure that the story is he gets signed, and then beforehand he cut an interview where the quite infamous one where he said he'd be dead by the time he's 60 because professional wrestling is awful, and then when the interview airs, the Fed sack him anyway, despite the fact he already pre-warned them that he had done it. This was, I think this was just them trying to give Piper a payoff, and I don't think they had anything for him at this point. And it's a shame because he deserves so much more. Like it's understated how much that man's actually done for professional wrestling as a whole.
I agree.
It's one of those when when you're watching wrestling, like in the noughties and everything. And I mean, people like Piper show up, Dusty Rhodes shows up. You don't. It's sort of like you don't know who these guys are. But as soon as they walk out, as soon as you see them, you just know they are a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm kind of glad they've got these Legends contracts now. So they just sign them to this fucking contract, wheel them out every now and then to give them a payoff instead of what they were doing back in the day, like get them to show up for a show and then just fucking them back off.
I think it was a bit more. Like nowadays, like because there's other ways for wrestlers to get income with podcasts and whatever, but we need to remember that 2003 was still the dark ages of all that. If you weren't on the only show in town, you weren't in work. Really, the territories are gone. There's not been enough time for the independent circuit to really gain any traction. Not that anyone would have cared about it anyway at this point. There's no way of getting alternative income unless for some reason John Carpenter phones up and wants to cut They Live too, which by the way I'm totally down for. But other than that, like he was probably in some dire straits. Yeah,
which is a shame and kind of ruined my memory of this segment. But that's fine.
That's what I'm here for, Thomas. Let's move on, Liz. Let's see what else happened.
We're just here to fucking
A-Train versus Billy Gunn.
Oh fuck, did we really? Because can I just say here, right? Can I just say I have nothing against Billy Gunn overall as a wrestler. To me, he very much found his niche. He very much found his niche as the second best person in a tag team. Whatever that tag team was, he was the second best person. When he comes out in this match, you'd think fucking Hogan walked out. The way they're kind of bigging him up.
Yeah, I didn't. It was one of those. 'Cause I read the card and I forgot what was on the card. So when I heard Billy Gunn's music hit, I just do not associate him as a noughties wrestler.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. They kind of did it Billy Gunn's back. I'm like, has it been that long since he was away?
I thought you were going to say, Ollie, I just didn't associate Billy Gunn as an ass man.
No.
I always thought he was a tits guy.
I would never disregard Billy Gunn as an ass man. And while we're on the concept of modern WWE,
oh yeah,
they make all this money out of t-shirt sales and shit, right? And selling figures and all this bullshit. Why don't they make retro merch for people? I would buy a pair of Mr. Ass shorts, like Mr. Ass swimming shorts. I'd go to the beach in an APA t-shirt and a pair of Mr. Ash shorts.
Their best-selling t-shirt of the past 5 years was a Nasty Boys t-shirt that they redone, or something like that. Total callback stuff. But sorry, because I wanted.
No, do you know how close I was to buying the In Your House t-shirt that went and re-released?
Yeah.
But I am not petty that I didn't because it said WWE In Your House.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I'm trying to, but I follow like one of these traders on Instagram, and he just puts stuff up every day, and I'm like, ironically, like these 80s t-shirts that he's selling have never been more stylish. Now that the styles came back around, I'm like, it's so on trend. They would make $1 billion. It's crazy. The problem is they don't want to kill what's left of the dead horse that they've been beating for the past 10 years. Let's be honest. Like they need to milk that teat for just a little while longer for the performance center to pay off. God, I sound like a bitter cunt. What's the next bit?
The next bit is Undertaker versus the Italian-American stereo.
Well, are we going to forget that Tony Wilson came out and
And
Billy
got
Gunn
spanked.
just objectified her?
Let's keep the volume down on that, shall we?
Again, it's just one of those. I love going back and watching this wrestling, and they just bring out a woman, and the entire ring just starts like hooting. Just
Yeah.
like
You see, sorry, you need to remember this was during the days without broadband. These people probably hadn't seen a woman before. It wasn't their mum.
That Tampa, Florida crowd was outstanding, though. I mean, Brackus could have walked out and got a standing ovation. Like, there'll never be another audience like Florida.
Brackus. Speaking of broadband, can we give a quick shout out to the JVC Power Slam moments and the Microsoft XP sponsorships?
I couldn't get any more 2003. There's an advert for Ang Lee's Hulk. I was like, yes!
Excuse me,
Yes.
Micro XP Media Center Edition had my interest peaked.
I couldn't stop laughing.
I want
It's one of those. I can completely rationalise it, but it's like when we saw the Western Union blimp flying around in your house. It's just so fucking funny.
Can I just remind everyone that we lost our minds when we saw that blimp, or any blimp for that matter? I think it was not when in my tenure as a member of this crew, it was the Ninja Toy Stars.
Karate Fighters.
Yeah, that was it.
Karate Fighters, yeah.
Karate Fighters, which is still the most coolest concept of a toy ever.
Milton Bradley, yes, and the PlayStation blimp at Mania 13, which will live in infamy.
Wait a minute, PlayStation. I thought you said PlayStation 3 there. I was like, how old am I? Can I just say something about Brackus? So I've actually seen Brackus wrestle live.
This
It's
is just
the
going to be
only
Thomas.
time.
Thomas name dropping for a fucking hour is what we're about to go.
The thing is, it's the only time I've ever seen this guy wrestle. Never seen him on TV. Never seen him in anything else, but I've just seen him live.
You could look at
Rolf Roll and he got knocked out.
You can look up Thomas's black book and you open it and there's 3 names and it's Savio Vega, Baracus, and Roddy Piper, but then Roddy Piper's just crossed out.
It's just the level of name dropping as well. It's like I'm the only man who's seen Baracus wrestle, and when Roddy Piper died,
I mean, it's arguable that you saw him wrestle, but that's an argument for another day.
he was performing at a wrestling show. That's all you
saw
can
him wrestle, allegedly.
He was on his back.
He was in the ring.
He had tights on. What's the next? Fuck, sorry.
No, we haven't even discussed Undertaker versus.
I'm about to say.
Oh, the FBI. So,
yes, the full-blooded Italians.
What season of The Sopranos were we on at this point?
I was literally going to say.
4 or 5, 4 maybe.
So you can understand why this program must have been red hot, because I was fully into it, having just recompleted a watch through. I was like, oh.
It's great as well, because obviously the episode prior we watched WCW where everyone's like Russian and a cowboy, and you just sort of go along with it. But you're watching this and it's like, what? So what? They've just got some guys and said, right, you're the Sopranos.
The best bit is I don't think any of them have seen The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Well, clearly fucking not.
The most Italian thing they do is like this thing, which I've never seen an Italian person do outside The Simpsons, by the way.
Can we just give Can we just give Vince some credit here that it wasn't his idea? This is an old ECW idea. This idea is like 6-7 years old to begin with at this stage.
Yeah. But at this point, it's his idea to hire them to cash in on a television program that he's most likely never seen.
I'm surprised to have some guy mimicking as Frasier.
It was the theme song that made me really click, like the Alabama 4 ripoff, like Alabama 7, Alabama 3 ripoff, Alabama 7.
Was Nunzio's theme not a ripoff of No Sleep Till Brooklyn by the Beastie Boys?
Whatever that song that was playing in this was 100%, because it's like a techno-y slow song, so it's meant to be woke up this morning, but it's not, you know. Like none of oh my god, don't even look Italian.
But do you know what concerns me though? Well, was Tracy Smothers wasn't the FBI at one point?
Mm-hmm. Tracy Smothers was in pretty much all of your favourite tag teams at one point, Thomas. Thought you'd know this, seeing as he's one of the names in your black book.
The fourth man in the NWO. Anyway, we talk about like Chuck Palumbo coming out with the
Shockmaster. Sorry, Liz. What you?
No, I was just going to mention there's a bit where just when you think it can't go too Italian enough, like Chuck Palumbo comes out with the wife beater and the golden cross on.
I know, that was just as soon as it happened, because it's like, oh yeah, FBI full blood Italian, and then you saw Chuck Palumbo, and
they've
it's
even
like
got like the black slicked back hair, like the brother and Everybody Loves Raymond. Like they all look like Brad Garrett.
But they do look like extras on The Sopranos, though. And they were. Although they look like cartoon characters nowadays, they were actually based on real people. Like it's not completely ridiculous. It's not.
It looks like you brought The Sopranos off Wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you remember like when the Last Ride debuted and everyone was like, "My goodness, Taker's right wing." Like Taker is right of centre, wearing these. Go back and watch this big evil. How the fuck did anyone ever think he was?
He's this big fucking Texan hillbilly coming in on a motorcycle, waving the US flag, and then it's like, yeah, of course, he's
he proceeds to beat up a family of immigrants.
Yes, we're only like a few years away from building a wall across the ring.
He's one hat away from the JPL gimmick, really. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't. That weird thing to talk about, but it's just the way he raises his arms at the start of every match. It looks like he dislocates both his shoulders when he does it. I don't understand what that is.
That does not look comfortable. It feels like you really feel like a pull in your traps or something.
It's like, can you imagine if Vince goes out, right, go there and raise your arms, and he just never does it right? Maybe it's like that's why he really closed the gimmick. He was like, I've been asking you for 4 fucking years now, man. Sorry.
Yeah, that's American badass gimmick's getting binge. You can't raise your arm properly.
Nah, that's it. Just go back to standing still, you goon.
I can't imagine Mark was like reading the call sheet and it was like Undertaker versus Johnny Stamboli, and he was like, Vince, I have to win this. I have to go over tonight. I can't imagine the lobby particularly hard. I imagine he just saw it and was like, all right, kids, you get your shit in, then we do the last ride, 1, 2, 3, we go home.
Excuse me, if Columbo was originally booked to go over, you're not telling me that Mark wouldn't have thrown a fucking fit.
Oh, come on now.
You just imagine the agent. You imagine the agent trying to get like him the call sheet going. Here's what's going to happen in the match. He's like,
I can't imagine
stab.
That call sheet stayed in one piece for very long. That would have been the quickest piece of paper ever ripped up in modern history. Yeah,
and bear in mind, judging by his Joe Rogan podcast, Taker was always strapped with some sort of weaponry when he walked in the backstage. So.
Just fucking pulls a gun on fucking Vince.
Johnny who?
You can imagine something pulling a gun on Vince and Vince just putting the gun to his head going, fucking do it.
It would have been deflected off his mighty shoulder blades. Anyway,
we're going to get to that.
Oh,
yeah.
The real main event. Hold steady, boys. Hold steady. Because we're doing Zach Gowen versus Mr. McMahon.
Again.
Oh, wait. Is this actually the order on the show, or you just...
Yeah, this is the order of the show. I've literally written down in bullet points.
Can we just clear something up here?
Go.
Did people genuinely not know it was Hogan who was Mr. America?
With a big bald eagle looking into the camera.
No, sorry. So the gimmick was that you're not supposed to know, and I feel like Vince called him Hogan, didn't mean it, and then just proceeded to own it.
Yeah,
you're supposed to know. It's meant to be like Hogan's not allowed back in here. Get it? Who's this masked man, brother? Like, I think it's meant to be that. But then the key part of the gimmick is Vince is not meant to know who he is.
Was Vince watching The Simpsons? I am Guy Incognito. Yeah, it's not just that. Here's the thing.
That wasn't Homer, remember?
Because again, I couldn't remember.
That guy looks exactly like me.
And that was not Hulk Hogan.
Brother.
Bro, no. Do you know what bothered me about it? I'm not even joking. I'm serious. It reeked a wee bit Blue Blazer to me because I've done that exact same thing. Owen Hart. And no, I'm not even taking the piss. I'm not even trying to be fucking crude or insensitive. They did that exact same gimmick with Owen Hart with a very similar costume.
It looks like the
And a
Jet
very-
mask.
And I was like, lads, is this really a good thing to be going here with? I don't know, I didn't like it.
It literally looks like Vince went to the bottom of his drawer like this and went, I think I've got something here.
Yeah.
It's
They
horrible,
could have
but
used the Patriot mask. Oh, well.
I don't remember this happening, and probably for my
No.
own benefit. But I couldn't remember if it was a case of, it was that Hogan would show up as this mysterious Mr. America, and we'd all know it was Hogan.
Yeah.
It had to be Hogan, but I was looking at it, I was like, but that's Hogan. We all know it's Hogan. You can see it's Hogan. Look, it's Hogan.
I get the joke in terms of the idea, like, oh, it's not supposed to be Hogan, but it's Hogan Hart. But out of context, watching this random episode in 2003, I didn't know what was meant to be happening.
yeah.
I don't know. It was meant to be the ruthless aggression era, and you just got like Hulk Hogan wearing a fake mustache, being like, Mr. America. My name is Mr. I'm from some place far away. Yes, that'll do.
Not even a fake mustache, but a fake, like, bit of flesh over his face to cover his real mustache.
No, fake mustache over his actual mustache. That'd just be.
There has to be two different Vince McMahons. Like, he goes, he gets the Captain America serum, he comes out and his neck's like 3 times wider than it usually is. He's like that fucking thing in Jurassic Park that kills Wayne Knight. Jesus Christ, they're so bronze.
It's called HGH and Trenable. That's what that shit's called.
How he is.
We just put allegedly over the screen here. The viewers of Cammy do not represent the rest of the members of the Talking Roll Express.
That juicing mother. Yeah, I know. I just want to say that one of the main, the one key thing, and you can look at it in the two guys that unfortunately we knew were juicing to the gills at this point was Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. A main symptom of performance-enhancing drugs of that nature is that your traps balloon to the size of the building, and I have never seen bigger. Like, he looks bigger than any of the wrestlers on the roster. His back was huge. He's bigger than Hogan. If they were to take their top off, Vince's back is bigger than Hogan's by a mile. Those lats were huge. Had half a chub.
Vince. Like, every time we talk together, the subject of Vince always comes up, and I'm more like, do I hate this guy? Do I love this guy? Or do I have a kind of indifference towards this guy?
He's a very complex man.
I'm speaking in silent admiration right now, by the way.
I still don't know how I feel about him.
I have never had more conflicting emotions about anybody in my entire life than Vince McMahon.
I will probably... I'll be sad when he's gone, but there is a lot about Vince McMahon that, living or dead, that I just despise about him. But at the same time,
months and months ago, but it's like he's given us more childhood memories than maybe anybody else in history. But there's no way that man is seeing the pearly gates.
No,
cruel. But
do you think they're going to keep him out?
No, he'll just tear his way through with those massive fucking
those traps.
He's fighting tooth and nail to get in beneath those gates. That's the only thing he'll not put over his God.
Yeah, I've got a very complex relationship with Vince McMahon.
Yeah,
very much. So it's like on paper he's the kind of person you should not like, but it's Vince. It's Vince.
He's so bloody charismatic, but he's like a family member, and then you'll hear about him like kicking the prosthetic leg off a one-legged man. You'll be like, God damn it!
Do you know Vince isn't going to get into heaven because he was cast out many years ago?
I liken him to the old lady in The Shining. Just when I feel like I know what's going on, and I feel I feel a warm embrace. I open my eyes and it's nothing but horror. It's very much the vibe that I akin to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Yes, I'm very much a beaten spouse in this instance. Where, for God's sake, it's been years now, and I've tried to get away, but he still somehow comes back and takes my money.
I have Stockholm syndrome when it comes to Vince McMahon.
That's probably the key. That's the
analogy.
yeah.
Than that.
So Zach,
Zach Allen.
the most on the Bruce Pritchard podcast, the most funniest thing I've ever heard. Who's recently came back to the Fed again, and it was controversial. He talks like this. No, the talent relations fella talks like John Laurinaitis.
John
Laurinaitis. John Laurinaitis.
So apparently, the Zach guy was on something like a TNA, and because he can go. What happens eventually is you find out is he can go, right? And he's only got. I said 3 legs, 2 legs. He's only got 1 leg. He's actually got an extra. He's got 1 leg. Vince went, I want him. Go get him. And the most John Laurinaitis thing ever. Apparently, showed up with the wrong fucking 1-legged boy. I don't know how you do it. Like, clearly people know who he is. He was on one fucking program and he showed up with the wrong one.
Look, we invoke The Simpsons a hell of a lot, but is that not the episode of Frank Grimes where he's like, Mr. Burns is like, Smithers, bring me that boy.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. And not only that, like, if you listen to the podcast, Bruce Pritchard says what are you going to do? It's a 1-legged man. You can't just tell him to fuck off. So apparently this poor guy like kind of hung around like a bad smell for a week because no one had the heart to tell him, by the way, you're not the guy we're looking for. We're looking for this other 1-legged fella. It's an atrocious setup.
To be fair to Johnny Laurinaitis, so I said, go and get me a 1-legged wrestler. You walk up to a wrestling show as a 1-legged wrestler, you do the maths in your head and go, must be him.
I mean, listen, if you're a wrestler and Johnny Ace comes up to you and is like, are you the 1-legged one we're looking for? You'd be cutting your own foot off with the hacksaw like Carrie Hill used in Saw.
I'm assuming that's what happened.
Yeah.
To cap Zach Gowen's career off, he's now wrestling in Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
Yeah,
no way.
Since 2011.
Yeah. Do
you know how he got, like, the story is, apparently he got injured and he wasn't turning up to the TV tapings, and I think he got released in like February of 2004.
Yeah. He didn't last very long.
No. Well, to be fair, this was June, so it did last about 8 months, assuming he started here.
There's guys with 1 more leg than him that have lasted less of a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so arm wrestling and wrestling, this is something that I feel like maybe would have been cool with I don't know, like a big dude back in the day and a monster heel. Yeah. Honestly, when I saw this, I was bored of Vince McMahon. I felt like we could have been doing with like a big monsterish heel, a la like big, like someone with a great body. I don't know. Just, I'm sure you could have fucking thrown a can in a empty room and found one of those guys back then there.
Sean O'Hare.
Yeah, anyone, I was actually going to say Sean O'Hare, actually.
I know it's for a contract and blah blah blah, but at least give someone the rub. Like, my problem with this feud has ran its course. I've no idea what you're doing with the Mr. America thing. You've already done WrestleMania 19, where finally Hulk and Vince get in the ring and figure out the steroid trial. Like, this is totally unnecessary. At the very least, put another talent in there to kind of give them the rub a wee bit. Like, just use your time, make it worthwhile. Otherwise, what are we doing here other than like trying to like pause and play very quick just to see if we can see Sable's tits? Like, otherwise, like, I just don't see the point.
Did Sable not sue the company all of 4 years prior?
Yes, and then she got brought back almost as a sort of like, well, from what I can see here, is just like a peace offering, because otherwise she's useless in this as well, really.
Yeah. It's a strange one, because like, I'm no doubt, I don't want to fucking cast any aspersions on allegations, but she sued them for like, sexual harassment and been treated a certain way. Then seemed to play that character when she came back, which I found very uncomfortable viewing, and I'm just like, this is really weird.
Aye, and
you're now in a storyline where you're like Vince's girlfriend and you're getting your baps out and things like that. And was this sort of thing you sued them for? Am I watching this in some kind of weird alternate timeline?
Vince doesn't help himself, because this is the type of thing where 4 dweebs like us would go, is this some sort of revenge tactic by Vince? When in reality, there's Occam's razor, there's probably some sort of like, there's something going on that's maybe a bit more logical and fair. Like, I doubt very much someone's going to sue Vince for sexual harassment and he goes, and then he hires them, so he goes, "Now you're my puppet." Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we accused Vince of playing 4-dimensional chess far too often. I think the truth is he just wanted money, and maybe he wrangled one more Playboy appearance out of Sable, which I think is what happened. To be fair, I think it was much more that kind of avenue.
If we were to remove today's politics from the conversation, and let's say someone sued the company for sexual harassment in 2015, and then within 3 years they were signed and in a storyline like this, it would be news. So it's maybe just like a news thing, like get people writing and talking about it. No, I think this is a complete waste of time, unless they had massive plans for that Zach guy, but I don't see it. So.
It's not just I'm the only person that thinks that Sable wasn't as much as which wasn't money in the same way in this era than she was like 6 years prior.
She's not. She was new. Sorry.
She made $1 million. I think the Playboy appearance was a big money maker for the Fed, and I think they were maybe looking to go more that kind of avenue with a lot. Well, as you can probably see, a lot of the women that they employed did end up doing Playboy or something to that extent. I think that was maybe what it was to maybe entice more employment, I guess. Does that make sense?
There's a Diva Search advert.
Yes,
which is bizarre. It's all a bit weird, to be honest with you. She got a payday, and I'm sure she was at peace with herself when she done it, so more power to her. I'm just saying that from a writing perspective, she's useless, and so is everyone else in this segment.
Yeah, it's terrible segment. It also goes on really fucking long.
Oh, God.
That was my main problem with
But
this.
I mean, I know, like, good must prevail, the hero must rise above all. But having like Vince McMahon actively do his facial expressions, like straining when Zach Gowen's got, "Hey, lighten up, kid, lighten up." It's like there is a point where the logicalness of it starts to outweigh the entertainment. But
I just feel like I said, you've already done. You cannot beat the concept of the WrestleMania 19 match. It was never going to be pulled off any more successful than it was, in my opinion. You're just treading water at this point. And plus, Vince now, you need to remember, if you're watching this show like in a linear view, and you've been watching Vince McMahon as a monster heel for years now, like, just get off the telly at this point. Like, take some time off. Give someone. Well, you're gonna need the talent soon, so figure that out.
I think Austin and Rock were already gone at this point. I mean,
yeah, they were.
I suppose the thing as well, because you've no competition, as we mentioned earlier, there's no WCW anymore, so you can just get away with stuff like this
you've got
unopposed.
becoming complacent.
Yeah, like
you've got no choice but to watch, especially because this was obviously very much pre-network, and I don't know what existed of WCW back then. But if you want to watch wrestling, you've got no fucking choice, man.
Mm.
Well, I mean, there's the shot before this. It might have been after this, in fact, where it shows like Brock Lesnar getting out the big Humvee and walking to the arena with the belt over his shoulder. And I'm like, oh God, he was the guy.
No, he didn't have the belt.
Man,
he did not have the belt.
No, I didn't have the belt.
Did he not have the belt?
I thought that was very Brock. Like
the Mandela effect.
That I just felt like this is the most they could get out of him. I feel like he's here for the match and not much else. The most they could do is film him on the way in, and he's not even going to wear the fucking belt. He's not even going to pretend it's in his bag.
But I did like the fact that he stood and shook hands and stuff. A few of the fans.
Yeah.
I liked that wee aspect. I don't know why. I just like that we touched it. It wasn't like it just like I'm telling up. I don't care. It seemed to be there for a good reason.
He's supposed to be face at this point. So I mean,
I'm sure there was that bit when Kurt was talking about him on the Ruthless Aggression documentary that was on the network, where it was like, he travelled alone. He stayed in hotels alone. He liked to eat alone. He was a very kind of isolated individual.
He bought a private plane and hired his friend to fly it, and his friend lived in his basement. He had a full-time pilot on the payroll so that he didn't have to travel with anyone. And the reason he left is because he hated the traveling. Like, because the NFL, like the level of which he was entering into that, he was never going to make as much money, but he wouldn't have to move. He'd have to move to a city for 4 months out of the year for a season, and that was it. And it's the same with the UFC. He'd have to move. He'd have to go, like UFC, especially then. He was never making Fed money in a billion years. The reality is he could do a fight. He wanted to challenge himself as an athlete, but most of all, He would only have to go away for an 8-week fight camp at the very most. I doubt he'd done 8 weeks, and then like an evening, and that's it.
There was the story, I believe, in 2000. Well, it was a news story that came out a couple of months ago, but obviously it was meant to be talking about 2004 at the point where he decided he was not going to re-sign. And I'm sure Vince was so desperate to wrangle him, he offered something absolutely ridiculous, like 15, 20 million to stay on for an extra 10 years. Like, Vince so desperately wanted him to be the guy. If it wasn't already obvious enough.
There's never it's if it wasn't for his talent, I wouldn't like him, because there's like, he's like, to me, he's like a talented Lex Luger. So like Lex Luger was given the keys to the kingdom, and he just didn't have the talent, and he didn't work towards it, and the Lex Express broke down and burned horrendously. Brock Lesnar also didn't want to be there, didn't put any effort in, but luckily for him, he had God's gift of talent, and it didn't matter. So he was given the keys to the kingdom, and then walked away himself, and then was allowed back willingly, and has walked away again. I would normally bitch and moan about someone like that if it wasn't for the fact that he's just so damn good in every context. He's changed the way, like from a professional standpoint. He used to be an incredibly athletic competitor. He could sell and make anyone a star. And then when he came back, he like adapted his style. Like, he does put the effort in when he has to, and then full stop. Now I'm doing the bare minimum. But luckily,
there's a point in when obviously we've done research for these things, and we've obviously seen the biographies and the Wikipedia pages of wrestlers who've died penniless in motel rooms at the tail ends of their careers with broken backs. And then obviously we read something about like Brock Lesnar, who charges like $500,000 a TV appearance. And we're like, isn't it right that he's gotten by the balls though?
Yeah, and here's the thing as well. It's like, I have been that guy that's complained about the part-timer having the strap and dictating when he turns up and he doesn't, and being lazy in certain matches against like Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania. But I will always go out my way to watch a Brock match. Always, because see, when he wants to, you're going to get gold. Like, I remember it was Survivor Series against Daniel Bryan, and the match started German suplex, F5, and the crowd were all booing, going mental. And Brock was looking at the crowd, he was laughing. He was actually laughing, because it's like, you have no idea what's going to happen next. You think it's going to just me being lazy, doing blah blah, and him and Daniel Bryan fucking tore it up in a cracking match.
Arguably, no other talent on the roster understands wrestling more than him. No. Arguably. I said it last show, Thomas wasn't here, but I still ascertained that Brock's run over the past 5 years has been the most exciting thing in wrestling. And what I mean by that is he knows exactly how to play the audience. Like you've just said, he puts you right in the palm of his hands, and then it's what is it? It's the prestige. Like, there's this illusion, but what's actually going on? Bang! Like, it just blows my mind every time. And it's the return of kayfabe. Like, all those, did he mean to burst Randy Orton open? And Paul Heyman turning around and saying, you think he was supposed to end the streak, but maybe he just went into business for himself. All that patter, fantastic.
And even if finds like when Goldberg beat him, and that first match when Goldberg beat him was fucking brilliant, because you do not see it coming. You think, what's going to happen here? Yeah. And like, they have a kind of test of strength thing, and Goldberg throws him down, and Goldberg beats him, and Brock's kind of looking at him and say, this isn't supposed to happen. And then like Goldberg beats him, and Lesnar is an incredible seller when he wants to be.
If anyone actually does follow this, I'm pretty sure that they would expect us to say otherwise, but you can't argue with the fact that that moment was maybe one of the biggest pops in the modern era. I don't want Brock. I don't want people like part-timers like Brock taking up all the time. It goes against what I said earlier with Vince stinking the place up, and especially Goldberg. But at the end of the day, it works.
Yeah, it does.
There's some kind of infamous YouTube clip of him coming back behind the curtain, gorilla. I believe it was like Mania 2 or Mania 33. And he flings the belt at Vince because he did not want to go over. He wanted to put the younger man over, which.
But no. But see, again, you're doing it. You're marking out.
Yeah, but
that's not real.
I know.
That's not real. But that's what I'm saying. You don't know though, and this is the point. This is why he's brilliant, because no one else on the roster can do that.
What if it is real? What if he just threw the belt on him and he died enough?
Because
Well,
there's
they
also
go-
a story.
They fire him.
Just as interesting.
There's also a story as well that after they bust Orton, apparently Shane McMahon confronted them backstage and the two of them went toe to toe. And you think to yourself, I can see that's only going one way, but you can believe Shane being tough enough to square up to him. But also, did that happen? You can believe it, and that's the thing.
Oh,
about
no.
But Lesnar,
To bite his nose off.
Sorry?
aye.
Jericho apparently gave an interview where he apparently confronted him after that Orton bust up, where he was threatening to bite him. But apparently his plan was to bite his nose off if Lesnar made a move on him.
Look, at the end of the day, Brock was world heavyweight champion in mixed martial arts and one of the greatest collegiate wrestlers out of Minnesota State. Get a grip. Get a fucking grip. Chris Jericho
Can
would
we
be
talk about how like
hated.
Minnesota is like shooter town, like the Hawk Animal, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. Like there's been no end of hard men that have came out of Minnesota. Like what?
Excuse
the
me,
fuck is
excuse
the
me.
water-
Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson and a kayfabe. I'm going to keep kayfabe here. Arn Anderson, okay? The Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Oh, of course.
Yes, I forgot Arn Anderson was from Minnesota. I for some reason, I always thought he was from somewhere else. But yes, you're right.
Yes.
Right,
I'm from Minnesota.
Right,
I'm back in Minnesota, all right? My name is Arn Anderson.
What's it? Arn Anderson, 1984, wearing a New York Yankees cap, looking at a Southern crowd going, listen here, you Southern hicks. Toot, toot. You know what I mean? Sorry.
We have to talk about something less depressing and move on to Chris Benoit and Rhino versus the Bashams.
I mean, look, I just want to point out this kind of because obviously the way the network works is we can't talk about Chris Benoit, so you can't
the
go to it
in tag team action.
So what inadvertently happens is I am reminded every single time we watch this era how much I really, really loved Chris Benoit because I mark out every time the music hits.
It's one of those, man. I think as well, because obviously every time you mention Chris Benoit in sort of like a conversational context, it does come with the caveat of what Chris Benoit did and the person he will be remembered as. But when you go back and you watch a match like this, you do remember how immensely talented he was, but also how, despite the fact Chris Benoit murdered his wife and son, WWE has to bear the cross of putting Chris Benoit into that position as well.
I think we can filter it by saying pre-2007 Chris Benoit.
Yeah,
Marvelous athlete and by all accounts a great human being.
I don't really know if that kind of holds water.
Murder doesn't stop you from being a fantastic athlete.
Yeah,
look at OJ. Like
was he okay until the murder?
Yeah.
I mean, position we're in.
No, look, only Lewis squirms. All right, we're all comfortable here. Like at the end of the day, he's the most talented guy in the room in this instance, right? And he clearly was already destined for better things. The one caveat I'd like to add to that is he's set up really well in the aftermatch promo where all he has to do is shout, kind of thing, shout back at Rhino. Because obviously the issue that we soon learn is he can't cut a promo.
Yeah.
So it's passable what he does, but he doesn't really, any of us could have done it. Well, maybe not stood there and looked tough, but we could have shouted back at Rhino kind of thing.
Oh, speak for yourself, mate.
Well, here's what I was going to ask. Like, what did you guys make of Rhino? Like, I've never ever been able to really get a fix on.
I think Rhino to me was great in ECW because
because he was packaged like Goldberg.
Yeah, that's the thing. But that was kind of his level.
He was a big fish in a small pond there.
As a top guy, that was his level. I don't really buy him as a top guy in the Fed.
He really washed out coming to the Fed, to be honest. Because again, you go back and you look at Rhino in ECW and Rhino in WWE, and it's two entirely different wrestlers. To be honest,
I've also seen Rhino wrestle, but it's for ICW.
I was there. Yeah. And by the way, totally marked out, so I can't say anything.
I No, it's that if I see Rhino wrestle in ICW, I'm going to fucking mark out because it's Rhino in ICW. If I go to see WWE and Rhino walks out, I'm going to pure Rhino.
What you doing? What you doing?
Even so, like looking back watching SmackDown, I did feel excited when Rhino came out. He was never going to hit the highs in the WWE, but he was still entertaining. He was still a good wrestler.
Entertaining.
There was
I think it's entertaining.
My entertainment is watching some guy get split in half with a spear.
Fair play. That's what turns me on, man.
The crux in ECW was a lot of guys were able to, say fuck and get a lot of cheap heat and stuff like that. Stuff that Vince would never have let fly. So
I give them more fucking credit than that.
I'm not saying there wasn't, but let's face it, like ECW could use a lot of cheap tricks. So in fact, tricks, just tricks in general to elevate their talent a little bit. Mask it. Paul Heyman, if nothing else, is perfect at hiding people's faults.
Yeah.
What's it? They ECW. What's the phrase that Brock got heat for in UFC? They could make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Yes. Yeah. So like they had obviously some amazing talents walk through the doors, but for the majority of the time they were dealing with subpar talent, subpar equipment, subpar everything, and what they were able to make of that is fantastic. And I think Tank next to that caliber of player, fantastic, and I loved that run, and that defined them to me. But like again in the Fed, anything outside of the hardcore segments, I'm just like, like. But
that was the thing about ICW though; it was really a product at its time, and a lot of it does look quite dated now. But see, at the time, you're getting this in tape traders and stuff. It's like the '90s. You're watching this in VHS. It's been copied like 5 times before it gets to you. So already looks grainy and grimy, but that's how it looked anyway. Yeah. It looked like something you weren't supposed to be watching, and that added to its illicitness. And it's appeal. It's a lure. But
absolutely.
As you say as well, some of the wrestling was also absolutely fantastic because it has some incredible names, as you say, walk through the door. And you had that violent aspect. You had a good mixture of wrestling entertainment. You had the total garbage wrestling that you never really seen much at that point. You know what I mean? Like the hardcore stuff. Yeah. And you had like proper, like your Jerichos, your Benoits, Malenkos and stuff put on masterclasses.
Yeah. I have what is it? Nostalgia in concept is a negative thing because we shouldn't long for the past, and that's how I feel about Rhino in every instance. Is that even when I see there's a lot of fleeting moment where you could watch him and go, yeah, he's on the money there. So yeah.
Do you know what nostalgia means? It's Greek for a suffering to return.
I'm Thomas. I wrote a book.
You talk about how.
I know what nostalgia means.
If that Big Fist SmackDown set was to make a return, I for one would not be upset.
Did he not come back? Did he not come back? Like there was a wee while where like the ECW guys were coming back, and then like Devon and Bubba Ray were there, and then they were fighting. Whatchamacallit, the guy that's the Fiend now, and all his pals.
Yeah, they did. The White family. And that's the problem, though, isn't it? Though. You're getting to the stage now you can't bring back the ECW guys because it's been 20 years.
It's only so many times you can go for a table.
Yeah. I'd just seen the Boys at ICW. But no, there's a reason. The point I was like, see it, but they totally fucked up the 3D.
This black book's getting extensive here, Thomas.
But no, do you remember that though? They went to the 3D and totally fucked it up, man. I was like, oh man, I paid money to see you guys.
Not the burgeoning local talent that we had at the time, Thomas. You were just the total mark for Team 3D.
I was going to see that anyway every week at the garage and the ABC and the Badlands and stuff. You know, I just expected me after the other boys. That was all.
And Thomas, I go to indie shows. I write books.
The Dudley Boys came out and said this match is going to be a hardcore no rules match. I'm like, mate, it's fucking ICW. Every match is hardcore no rules match.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this guy. You've probably never heard of. His name's Rhino. You know.
Anyway, as Roddy Piper was dying, he called out for me.
He's away.
See what I mean? He's fucking
available now on Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, no.
Cheap heat.
Cheap
Yeah.
pops.
Shall we discuss the Bashams?
Get Dean
No.
Douglas to fuck
we
out
did.
this podcast.
I just want to say, there is a funny story about Jim Cornette on one of his shit interviews when he was talking about managing the Bashams, and like when they got the big call up to the WWE, Doug Basham, who was like his big guy in OVW, who was making this project out of, apparently he came back from Connecticut with a shaved head, and Jim Cornette apparently says to him, "What the fuck have you done?" Doug Basham says, "Oh, they wanted to know what I look like bald." To which Jim Cornette apparently responded, "They couldn't just pretend." That is my only Basham story I have.
Man.
Talking about Cena versus
I think it's not just your only Basham story, it's the only Basham story. Full stop, Lewis. That's where their career started and ended. Jesus.
I'd like to see a dark side of the ring on Doug Basham being shaved.
Well, interestingly enough, Doug Basham actually was Doug Basham. Danny Basham was not Danny Basham.
Interestingly enough. Okay.
It's a counter argument. Listen,
Would you believe that these two wrestlers, despite
these
the fact
bald men were not related?
Despite the fact we said they're related, they're not actually related.
It's still real to me, damn it!
The more you know.
I watched a match one time. It was the New Rock and Roll Express with Bart Gunn, Hardcore Holly versus New Midnight Express, whatever it was, versus the New Age Outlaws. And they totally forgot that Bart Gunn and Billy Gunn were meant to be brothers. So they squared up in the ring. But they knew, remember, so they kind of squared up and looked at each other and kind of played off it, like very subtly. And JR went, quiet, went, oh yeah, they're brothers. Like I just fucking remembered.
I really think they set a bad precedent when they made the first set of wrestlers brothers. Because then...
Sorry, go on.
It's just a case.
I'm not saying anything on purpose. I'm just like, okay, let's see how many times we can go for here.
Fucking Undertaker and Kane were related, despite they bear no resemblance to one another.
One of them was wearing a fucking mask, Ollie.
Exactly, and the other one wasn't.
To be fair, though, they were half brothers. I mean, Kane and Paul Bearer were fucking identical.
They are actually.
Yeah, if they're both wearing masks, they look the exact same.
What happened next on Thursday Night SmackDown?
Cena versus Funaki, but I have no interest in talking about that.
No interest in what, sorry?
Cena versus Funaki.
I like that.
I'll be completely honest. The network crapped out on me when I went to watch this match, so I just skipped over it.
Ollie, you missed a barnstormer.
See it as a squash match.
I'll just because all I remember that again Funaki just for one of those he probably could have done something, but I remember he was just like quote unquote SmackDown's #1 backstage reporter, and despite the fact you could have just said like this guy's from like Tokyo, Japan. Again, WWE, like all our fans are just stupid fucking hillbillies. We've got to really force the fact this guy is from Japan on people.
In instances like this, I sometimes like to sort of like picture myself as a patronizing time traveler, and just imagine myself in the crowd, all those fucking arseholes cheering at Cena squashing a guy in 5 seconds. I'm like, you all think this is funny? You got 10 more years of this motherfucker right here. I'm the one laughing.
Strap in, boys. It's going to be a long millennium.
That's the fastest match he's going to have for another 5 years.
Cena fuckonomics, I like that.
When he brought it back years later, as like a nostalgia thing at WrestleMania, that was fantastic. Against the Elias.
People went all for it, didn't they?
By the way, Elias is the only other person in the modern roster that understands wrestling. He's one of the perfect heel, but that's a conversation for another day. But John Cena coming out to that, and it was beautiful. But we've spent probably more time on this than Lewis would wish. So what are we talking about next, Lewis?
Well, I was
longer than that.
On Wednesday night's Crackdown.
Fucking keep your G-string on, because we're about to talk about Kurt Angle breaking up Team Angle, and you must have been moist watching this.
This was my version of the Beatles breaking up.
Ollie was in tears for hours.
I couldn't deal with it.
This was the Furious 7, the cars going their own way moment for me.
I just. I don't know, man. At any moment that Kurt Angle gets to not that sweet 5 minutes when he got to come in, just as Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist, not a comedic character, not a heel, not a face, just as the man, and enjoy, the praise that he got.
Gold medal?
Yeah, believe it or not, Lewis. But yeah,
I believe he was nursing some kind of just minor
Ailments.
injury.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about this. The only thing I would say, and I'm about to get all pernickety again, is so obviously in this instance, Shelton and the other fella,
Charlie Haas.
Charlie, are now heel in Kurt's face. In what world is this going to turn out all right for them?
I feel like every
Kurt
time
Angle comes back from a broken neck. They beat down Kurt Angle. They obviously are going to go have a match where Kurt Angle and maybe someone else helping him, a big surprise teammate, squash, maybe fucking Lesnar. I bet it was Lesnar. Squash Haas and Shelton. And then these are the two upcomers that were supposed to have gotten the rub. And after all that time invested in them, we're just going to fucking make them the bad guys in an unwinnable scenario. A bit stupid, but...
It's good that I think like Kurt Angle spent the majority of his career as a bad guy. Like even if you go back and look at I believe his first match was at like Survivor Series 99 when he fought Sean Stasiak, and there's actually a moment in that match when Kurt's doing all the good guy stuff and he's getting consistently booed, and the ref apparently got a note from Vince which is this isn't working, make him bad. And Kurt about 3/4 of the way through the match picks up the microphone and says, "Listen, I'm a gold medalist. You don't boo me." And the rest is just history, But Kurt always, and again, it's quite funny because who has a more interesting good guy story than Kurt Angle? The man defended the honor of the States at the 1996 Olympic Games with a broken frickin' neck.
The man defeated the Russians. God damn it!
Yeah. It just doesn't get any more
War.
Rocky IV than that, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's obviously that's the only thing I would add to this. Like, obviously, anytime that music hits, I'm a big girl. But at the end of the day, not much going on. It's very fucking stupid to make. I don't know what. It's obviously, as a caveat, I can't complain about it and not offer an alternative. But they're not about to fucking prod me and ask me my opinions on how it should be written. But to invest so much time on them and give them the rub for so long, and then to make them the heels in unwinnable feuds where someone who doesn't need a rub at all is just going to squash them, it doesn't help their stock at all. And probably explains why Charlie Haas wasn't heard from even just a couple of years after this. Shelton, well done, but yeah.
Again, I still feel like they could have pushed Shelton harder.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I feel like he could have gone a lot further than what he did.
100 billion%. Yeah, 100 billion%.
I don't know how you guys felt about that little promo he said, but it's like they chant, you suck because they care. They chant you suck because they hate. I don't know how I really felt.
No. I'm sorry. That was true though, because
it was true though.
Yeah, you could witness it.
They cared.
Yeah, It was. I'm pretty sure that's maybe the first time that they acknowledged, the fact that those are endearing chants.
That's like the number one rule of the WWE. If you don't have the crowd, you don't have shit.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it, but again, it just seems like we're going down a dark and lonely road here. So I'm not going to condone it.
It felt too long as well.
A few segments in this felt a bit long, and we didn't have a lot of great matches to make up for it either. Again, kind of cementing the fact that we're more E than anything else at this point.
Putting the smack in SmackDown.
Moving on to our main event, Show versus Lesnar for the world title. It is a match comprised of one spot and largely not a whole lot else. But you guys discussed this. I'm sort of tuning out.
I liked this, man. I like it. I thought the match was decent for what it was, knowing what it was building to, and when the spot happened, the ring exploded. The place was absolutely mental. Even if you hated it, you still couldn't help but appreciate the fact that you're the odd one out in that case, because
I have a feeling Cammy hated it. He had his face down there for the entire minute. I was discussing it.
Maybe they could have made it shorter, because again, this match was the vehicle for that spot at the end, and it didn't need to go on as long as it did to arrive at that point. I think you could have had it done in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
in their defense,
What?
you can't just explode a fucking ring after 2 minutes of wrestling, Ollie. Okay, there needs to be a build. But
I actually think you could.
just go
Well,
for it.
Watch the barbed wire match AEW. Look how they exploded that ring.
Oh
Look,
yeah. a sparkling
don't cheapen this podcast by referencing the one thing everyone else is
how
referencing. We
we've
don't
spent-
acknowledge that.
We've spent
Okay.
1 hour and 11 minutes talking over one another. Now Cammy's finally busting out. Don't fucking talk over me.
Look, you can't. Right. Oh, for kayfabe's sake, you have to have a build, because if you explode the ring in 2 minutes, it's too obvious that it's just a spot. We're in Southern America. It's still real to them, damn it. Look at the way they reacted. They thought that was legit. The reason why they thought that was legit is because they had a build. Okay, it sizzled over. It was the key way to do it. My problem isn't with the spot or the match. I'm just about to be a little controversial, or maybe not so. I do not give a fuck about Paul White or the Big Show. I couldn't give a toss about how tall he is, how much he weighs. He has no talent, and he's been a fucking from the moment he walked through WCW's doors, I have had no time for the fella.
Cammy, please listen to the podcast as with Jericho, because you will then finish it and you will lift. You have never lifted before.
Look, I just can't. I need more than he's an awfully big fella. Because at the end of the day, he's been in nothing but companies with awfully big fellas. All right, he's not that big a fella compared to the rest of the big fellas he fights.
Oh, aye. They don't come
His
down.
first opponent was Hogan, the biggest man in wrestling. Okay, like it doesn't make any sense.
I feel again that those 4 inches between him and Andre were the difference as well. Because again, you see him square up against guys who are like 6'10", 6'11", and it's like biggest athlete in the world, really.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
I do
It's
completely
all
agree
he's
with Cammy.
got. It's all he's got, and it's all he's had for so long. And look, I'm not going to say he doesn't seem like a nice guy, but god damn it, I'm a heel. I don't give a toss if he's a nice guy. It's just wrestling. I don't care about what he is like outside of the ring. I'm just saying, for a gimmick, I need more. That's it. At least you could look at Andre and go, yeah, but do you remember his New Japan days? You can't do anything for like a Big Show. He was untalented when he started. He had to get sent back to training by the time he went to the Fed. And even when he came back, he'd done nothing but Andre moves, and Andre done them better. And he was always a stopgap. He was a transitional champion, many times transitional champion. I don't care what belt, it was a transitional champion. He was a transitional player in feuds. Like right now, in reality, he's only there because Kurt Angle was rehabbing his neck. So they didn't, you know what I mean? They promo that, they show that in the build up to the match. Look, I feel for the guy with everything that's happened recently, what he's came out with, like, because at the end of the day, he wasn't given the respect that is due. But I'm just going to add on to that and give him even less respect, because personally,
what the fuck is that? Eh? They never give him the respect that you after you've just hit out with about 40 minutes of I don't give a shit about your kids. Fuck you.
From a sheer coming from someone who works a less exciting job than he has clocked a lot of time on the calendar. That's about it. He's been on the road a while. I'll give him that. But other than that, it's a shrug from me. I wouldn't know what to do with him. I would have given him the same offer that Vince did, because I would just be like,
I reckon we need to show him this podcast and then ask him if he still feels hurt about not being offered his own parking space.
Maybe he was feeling optimistic, and then all of a sudden he'll go, "Oh, what's this podcast?" And he'll quit wrestling. He'll just quit wrestling.
These guys discussing one of the biggest spots I've ever had. What are they going to say about?
Look, he's got his monster truck to rival Hogan's. We're all cutting about in Nissan Micras. It makes no difference. He's always going to be
Yeah.
on tonight.
This is a guy, in all fairness, survived a 500-foot drop from a skyscraper and turned up to work that night.
I can't. Look, he's a wrestler who can't wrestle. End of. That's
But-
my feelings for him.
In the context against Brock, it's fine because Brock is fucking massive, so at least somebody can throw Brock about. You know.
Excuse me, off the back of the chat I had earlier, Brock throws himself a bit, is what's really happening here. He's bumping
It's
like a boss.
It's a wrestling match, Cammy. It's not real.
That's what I'm saying. He's bumping like a boss for this man. He's the one doing the selling. Like, Big Show might as well just be like, huh? And then like Brock Lesnar's just running back and forward.
That's a fair point.
I'd go for that. It's like trying to play like SmackDown versus Raw against your sibling, where they just like stood there walking, and you're just running backwards and forwards between the ropes.
It's just
I'm playing any WWE 2K game for the last couple of years, but it just glitches. It's just Lesnar bouncing about the ring himself.
I'll admit, I just gave the man a scalding that he didn't deserve, but at the end of the day, he's more money than I'll ever earn in my entire life. I'm sure he'll be fucking fine. All I'm saying is that I skip every single match he's in.
You're sitting there going, he's a professional athlete. This stuff just rolls off his back, cuts the Paul White tear down his fucking cheek.
Oh, we all know he loves a V tier. That's the only thing he
Big
could do.
Big show. Big show.
Well,
In fact, you know what? Just to close us out here, 'cause I don't think we're gonna get much done.
We've got 3 minutes.
Back in the day, when we were in like chemistry lessons and shit, and this was like the advent of like your Sony Ericsson Walkmans and everything, you'd just be sat there in lesson, you hear, "Well," just like every so often.
After Cammy's rant on him, he's probably going to bring another version for his retirement. It's this little stripped back blues version. Well, it's the big show. Dum, 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 dum. He's just walking at the sunset.
The
sure
Ronald
it'll be-
Reagan remix from The Simpsons. Well.
I'm few. He's got a few million reasons to why he would not give a toss about what I think. But, you know, if he ever does hear this, I just want him to know it's right back at you, pal. I just couldn't care less. But, good show. 10 out of 10. Would watch again. Thanks very much, guys. Lewis, you're the one that's...
I have enough strength in my conviction to say I don't regret recommending this because we've had a solid 1 hour and 20 minutes of what I consider to be really great banter. Again, maybe when I sober up this will all seem awful, but I've had a great time.
He just sprouted this up like he was Alan Partridge. Great banter! 10 out
I
of
regret
10.
using that word now. I hate it.
Top
I hate the word
banter.
It's not bad.
Right.
Banter.
Craig, we've had good Craig.
Could I just say that I was gutted when we got to the main event. I've had a really good time, and if anything, if that's the whatever of this show, then fair enough. But yeah, I won't be watching this again beyond a YouTube clip.
I would like to go back and ask which of these are we really ever going to watch again?
I've watched that WCW show like 3 times since we've done it, man. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah, fair enough. I watch it go to sleep. It nourishes me.
Hope it doesn't bore you.
It's a mindfulness meditation.
Okay.
We can discuss what episode.
I can't finish this at all, Gary. I'm taking over. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. From Lewis, Thomas, Ollie, and I'm Cammy. It's been great. Thanks very much. Lewis is drunk. We're going to go to bed. Thanks.
Much like the Big Show, Lewis can't finish this.
Give us to go home, Q.
Well,
Right,
Well, it's the ending.
right, bud. Adios.
Goodbye. Love you.
Catch you next
love
week.
you, Lewis. Bye.
Bye.